Guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for the series premiere of Penny Dreadful, Season 1, Episode 1, Night Work, and I was really looking forward to this show. I mean, I've never been more excited for a show in quite a long time. I think the last show I was this excited for was probably... I don't even remember. Fargo is the last show I was this excited for, I mean, but nothing compared, I mean, I was excited for Fargo, but not as much as I was for Penny Dreadful. I've been so excited for the show for literally the whole year. I have been so excited for it, because, one, you guys know I love horror. I love horror movies, I love watching creatures in horror movies, I love all of that kind of shit, you know, things like that, I love that. Two, I knew was going to focus on, like, classic horror and things like that, and that had me really intrigued right away. So, I mean, those two things I was also really looking forward to. And also, that since it was on Showtime, I knew it was going to be really, really good. And, you know, I was definitely really looking forward to it. Now, a couple days ago, on Friday, they released a behind-the-scenes featurette, and they kind of talked about the show, and then I realized that all the effects were practical, and that just got me even more excited, and I have to say, Penny Dreadful is amazing. It really is. Definitely, I think it's going to be probably one of Showtime's biggest hits. You're really going to, I mean, it's going to be one of those shows that I think Showtime gets, like, famous for, like, even more famous for, because this whole premiere was absolutely amazing. I loved everything about it. There was no problem with it, in my opinion. I thought everything was great, and I absolutely loved everything about this premiere. I thought it was fantastic. So, let's just get into it. Let's get into the recap, because there's a lot to talk about, and I'll get to, the performance and things like that after I get to the recap, but let's first get to the recap. So, we see this mother and her 7-year-old daughter, they're sleeping in a bed, the mother has to go to the bathroom, and, she goes to the bathroom and everything, you know, because she has to go to the bathroom, and basically, she's going to the bathroom, and then something rips through the wall, and behind her, it yanks her back. The girl wakes up a few minutes later, realizes that her mother is not there, and she goes to find her. When she opens the bathroom door, she screams in terror at what's inside. So right away, it's really intense, and I love that about the show. I thought the opening was fantastic. And then we get a really cool intro, which is perfect for the show, because it's really, really creepy, but it definitely is really, really good. So the next scene we see the girl, we see that girl that we just saw. She's now an adult, and she is praying to God in Latin. You know, she's praying very hardly. She's just like really, really intensely praying. Probably because she's so disturbed at what she's seen that it's affected her whole life. So, I mean, it's definitely pretty interesting there. So, she's facing her crucifix hanging on a wall in the room. A spider crawls down the crucifix, across the floor, and onto the woman's hand, and the woman stares at it and then rolls her eyes back in her head. So, right away you can see, I mean, she is terrified of spiders. If you guys were terrified of spiders before, that scene will make you even more terrified of spiders, because literally, that was, like, the first scene that made me jump. Definitely thought that was definitely really well done. And then we see that it is now London, September 21st, 1891, which is the perfect time period because that is when everything else came out. By the way, if you're wondering why the show is called Penny Dreadful, because these sort of books that came out, you know, like Frankenstein, Dracula, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Dorian Gray, things like that, they were called Penny Dreadful because they were tragedies about these monsters, but they were only a penny to buy, so that's why they're called Penny Dreadful. I want to say that. So the Colonel Brewster Wild West exhibition is performing in a field. Sharpshooter Ethan Chandler is boasting of his exploits, fighting with Custer against the Seahawks. Okay, whatever's going on there. He's talking, he's shooting, and hits all the targets on the table around him. Ethan then ends his performance by shooting a woman's hat off, and the audience gives him a round of applause. This is where we're introduced to the character of Ethan, who, by the way, looks exactly like Chris Hemsworth. Like, seriously, if I didn't know there was Chris Hemsworth, I would have thought that was Chris Hemsworth, because he looks just like him. Ethan then sees this woman, takes the woman to his wagon, and they have sex there. And once they're done having sex, he said that he has to move on, with the show to Paris and that he won't see her again. He assures the woman that she made his life truly memorable, and she asks Ethan if he'd like to know her name. And that night, Ethan is sitting in the tavern drinking, examining a pocket watch that his father gave him, and then that girl, Vanessa, comes in and points out that he was lying about his exploits. Ethan admits that he was basically, I guess she had seen the show or whatever. No, she's seen the show. And she's kind of talking to him about it, and she's saying how Ethan admits that he was telling tall tales. He invites her to sit down. Vanessa explains that she needs a skilled gunman who isn't adverse to danger, and then points out that his clothes are threadbare and his left hand trembles because of a drink, so Ethan tries to hide it. She saw the expensive pocket watch, figures that Ethan had money, spent it on the pleasure of youth, and when Ethan wonders if she wants him to murder someone, Vanessa asks if it would matter to him if she did. So Ethan agrees in return for a smile from her in addition to cash. She smiles briefly, gives him an address, and tells Ethan to meet her there that night at 11 o'clock at night. So as Vanessa leaves, Ethan asks for her name, but she refuses to respond. So that night, Ethan then meets up with Vanessa at the address in the slums of London. She leads him into Chinese opium den, where you see this, but here's where we're introduced to basically our lead character, and our lead character is Sir Malcolm Murray, who, he's waiting, and Vanessa confirms that Ethan is the man she promised, and Malcolm leads them into the cellar, and as they go, Ethan asks what they're doing. Malcolm says all he needs to know is that they're looking for someone. He also tells Ethan not to be amazed by anything he sees and not to hesitate. And you know what? Malcolm's a really interesting character. He's basically your typical English gentleman, but he's actually there for more than... we really don't know why he's there, but we find out in a second. Basically, they enter the catacombs beneath the building. Very creepy at this point. You know, there's creepy music playing and everything. Perfect, because, again, it's a horror show, so it's perfect for that. But basically, Ethan wonders what they're looking for exactly, or who they're looking for. And Malcolm tells him that they're looking for someone dear to him. They come to 3 Egyptian men standing guard. Malcolm addresses the leader in his native tongue. Ethan notices the other 2 men moving around to flank them and prepares to draw his gun. Then the leader finally attacks Malcolm. The other 2 lunge at Ethan, and while Ethan and Malcolm fight and kill their opponents, Vanessa walks calmly past them into the room the familiars were guarding. And inside, she finds a room strewn with corpses in various states of dismemberment. Lying on the floor is the corpse of a blonde woman. Now, there are 2 puncture marks on her neck. And we all see this bald man with gray skin, then steps out of the shadows. Vanessa orders him to reveal his master. He ignores her, prepares to attack her, but just as that happens, Ethan shoots him in the head, and he and Malcolm come in. Malcolm says that the dead woman isn't the one they're looking for. Ethan notices movement from a pile of skulls, goes to investigate, because again, Ethan, all Malcolm said was, we're looking for someone near and dear to me. Hey, he thought that woman could have been the one that they were looking for, but that's not who they're looking for. Ethan notices movement from a pile of skulls, goes to investigate. Another one of the bald men leaps out, attacks him, ignoring Ethan's bullets. When the performer shoots him, the man knocks out and attacks him. So ignoring Ethan's bullets, so then what happens is, he then taunts Malcolm. However, Vanessa steps in front of their attacker and locks eyes with it. It stands briefly immobilized. Malcolm thrusts the blades of his sword cane into his chest, killing him. Very graphic scene here, but very well done. Malcolm and Vanessa then go to the dead woman. Malcolm grabs her, demanding to know if there is another man like the one who attacked her. So she opens her eyes, which glow red, reveals razor-sharp fangs, and then he's very startled by this. So Malcolm stabs her through the chest with his blade, killing her for good. So she's now dead. So then the trio then takes the corpse to a mortuary, and Malcolm tells Ethan that the body snatchers use the place to collect cadavers and supply them to doctors for their lectures. The mortuary boss tells him to take the body to his assistant, his assistant is Victor. Yes, Victor Frankenstein. That's who we're talking about here. Victor Frankenstein is in the show, and I think it's awesome that we got to see Victor Frankenstein, the pilot, because obviously everyone be wondering, when are we going to see Frankenstein? When are we going to see Dracula? When are we going to see Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? When are we going to see them? We just saw Frankenstein, so, I mean, that was definitely really big. Basically, he's busy cutting open a corpse. He isn't interested in Malcolm or his money. He asks Ethan what he knows about electrical galvanism, and since electricity is more common in the States, by the way, I still never figured out what galvanize means. If you guys remember, when I reviewed Teen Wolf I reviewed the episode of Teen Wolf called Galvanize, I said I don't remember what galvanize means. I still don't know what galvanize means. I know it's to do with electricity, but I still have no idea what it means. I'm sorry, guys, I just don't. Basically, electricity is more common in the United States. Malcolm, because they're in London, it's not as common in Britain. It's definitely more common in the United States. You know, he wants to find electrical galvanism, and Malcolm interrupts, insisting that they need a necropsy immediately, but Victor tells him to go out, realizing what would intrigue the assistants. Vanessa then removes the cloth from the bald man that they killed. Victor is interested, despite himself. He examines it and then tells them that the man is apparently dead, but there are no signs of post-mortem lividity, so the fangs are sharp but unused despite the creature's musculature. And then Victor cuts open the corpse, informs his visitors that its skin resembles an exoskeleton rather than human skin, similar to that of an insect, a crustacean. So, much to his surprise, there are Egyptian hieroglyphics tattooed on the creature's skin. So Victor admits that he doesn't know what the creature is, or what the creature does or anything. So as Malcolm and Vanessa leave, Malcolm tells Ethan to come to an address at noon tomorrow. So then we meet our next character, who is Inspector Granworthy. He's called to a flat where a woman and her young daughter have been bloodily torn apart. He has the police photographer take pictures of everything and promises to bring the killer to justice. So Ethan then goes to that address that Malcolm gave him because, you know, he wanted to go meet up with Malcolm, and he discovers that that address is Malcolm's house. So he then meets the butler, Sameen, who tells him to stay in the foyer while he goes to get Malcolm. However, Ethan goes into Malcolm's study, discovers dozens of maps of the world, as well as an extensive collection of trophies and hunting rifles. So Vanessa comes in, leads Ethan to a study that has been set up to perform a seance. She shuffles a tarot desk and gives Ethan her name and asks if he believes in a demonod, so a half-world between this world and the next, and Ethan says that he does, and Vanessa tells him that they were in such a place the previous night. She admits that they need a man like Ethan, a man of violence who has inner depths. That's basically what they need. So Ethan demands a explanation. Vanessa tells him that a creature like the one they fought, abducted Malcolm's daughter. That's who they need to find. They need to find Malcolm's daughter, Mina, who they thought, though, it was the only one of its kind. So she refuses to say why she's involved in Malcolm's hunt for his daughter. Ethan turns down her offer of further work. Vanessa tells him that Sameen will pay him for it in his time, and says that if he ever finds himself in the demonoid again, Ethan knows where he can find her. As he goes, Vanessa asks him to draw a card from the tarot deck, and to believe as he does so, Ethan hesitates and then draws a card and discovers that it says it's the lover. The card says the lovers. So does this mean that Vanessa is trying to seduce Ethan to work for her, or does she really like Ethan? I kind of feel like we are seeing a relationship between them. There are going to be, like, some scenes between them, definitely. There's going to be some, romantic stuff between them. But I'm not sure. Do you think that means that Vanessa really is in love with Ethan, or is she going to try to have sex with him to get him to help her? I wasn't sure what was going to happen there, It seems like kind of both, possibly, but then once Ethan's gone, Vanessa goes to see Malcolm, tells him that Ethan was intrigued by their offers, and as he studies a photo of two children, a boy and a girl, Malcolm tells Vanessa that he won't let Ethan leave town and that they have an appointment among dead things in an hour. So, as Malcolm and Vanessa go to a British museum, basically, they're obviously hiding something from Ethan. We don't know what, but that's Ethan's last scene of the episode, so yeah. They go to a British museum. The streets are buzz with rumors that Jack the Ripper has returned. You know, that's another monster. He is responsible for the mother and daughter murders. And inside a Syrian department, they meet with Ferdinand Lyle, the curator of the museum's Egyptian and Assyrian department. Lyle knows Malcolm as a famous hunter, asks him to sign one of Malcolm's books for him, and Malcolm agrees, shows Lyle's photos of the creature's skin. He asks the escapologist to translate, and Lyle says that the hieroglyphics speak of a blood transformation, or perhaps a curse. Lyle notices something else and grows suddenly nervous and asks if there are more such hieroglyphics. Malcolm says there is. Lyle asks to see them, but says that he can't view them at the museum. He invites Malcolm and Vanessa to his home on Friday for a fete held by his wife. He makes it clear he won't speak further to them if they refuse. Malcolm reluctantly agrees, and as he leaves with Vanessa, Lyle tells them that the hieroglyphics are from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So as he walks through London, Ethan hears about the murders, remembering the carnage beneath the opium den. He goes to the flat as the police remove the corpses, and he hears two women arguing about whether the Ripper is back or not. They're not really sure if he's back. So we then see Samin delivering a package to Victor's flat, and he says that Malcolm sent it, and once the servant leaves, basically the rest of the episode pretty much focuses on Victor. It pretty much does. So basically, he delivers a package. Victor opens the package. He finds an expensive suit and an invitation from Malcolm to meet him at the Explorers Club. So Victor then dons the suit, goes to the club. Malcolm greets him, and basically Malcolm has some sort of a business opportunity for him. He doesn't know what it's about, but there's some sort of business opportunity that Malcolm has for him. So he explains that he's searching for the truth, and he sought out mountains and rivers. He then says that all forms of exploration, geographical, scientific, are pointless, and that the only true means of scientific endeavor is penetrating the barrier between life and death. However, the young animacist admits that he has very little money to do with, he's very poor, so he doesn't have any money and everything. So Victor figures that Malcolm wants to know more about the creature he brought to the mortuary, and Malcolm explains that he's looking for a cure for a rare disease, and he wants Victor to help. So Victor then contemplates the offer. He insists that he doesn't want to join an amateur occult society. So Malcolm angrily says that he doesn't want to form one. Victor asks what he really wants. The explorer tells him that he's trying to rescue his daughter, and would basically use any price to save her. Victor considers Malcolm's offer, asks why the explorer chose him. Malcolm says that it is because Victor dared to pull back the skin and look beneath. So possibly we have some sort of them working together. Not really sure where that's going, but I don't really know. We'll have to see. But that definitely is going in a very interesting direction. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with that, and that was definitely a very interesting scene. So that night, Ethan goes to Malcolm's house. He sees Vanessa in an upstairs window. He starts to go in. Malcolm arrives, goes inside. Ethan walks away into the rain. And inside, Malcolm's getting ready for bed. And here we get a huge scene. I mean, this scene just, wow, this scene was huge. He discovers one of the windows is ajar. After closing it, the gas lights in his room are flickering. He adjusts the valve, and a blonde woman appears in the room. And, he then realizes that it's his daughter, Mina. Which is huge, because he thinks he found her and everything. He thinks everything's okay, but something's not quite right. He can definitely tell something's not quite right, but he can't figure out what it is. The window then blows open, and when Malcolm turns from it, Mina's on top of him, snarling, baring her fangs. The gas lights explode, and Mina disappears in the darkness. So yes, Mina is now a vampire. And, I mean, I'm not surprised at that, because I think there was a vampire named Mina on Dracula. Let me just look that up for a second, because I believe there was something about Mina, Dracula. Let me just look that up. Mina Harker. That is who they are portraying on, they are portraying Mina on Penny Dreadful, I think. I think that's who they're trying to show. Also, on this TV show Dracula, they had a character named Mina, so I was pretty sure that that's who they're trying to show, is is the girl, Mina. Basically, she's now possessed, and I'm assuming Dracula, not possessed, but she's now a vampire, and I'm thinking that now that we've seen her, we're gonna see Dracula in the next episode, because you can't have Mina without Dracula, pretty much. That's pretty much how it works. Malcolm then tells Vanessa what happened. Vanessa insists that her true friend would not harm anyone. She basically says, I wouldn't worry about Mina. You know, I'm sure Mina's going to be fine. I don't think she intentionally meant to hurt you. But she does blame herself for Mina's actions. Malcolm points out that they will both have to live with their guilt because they can't undo the past. And as he goes, Malcolm says they're seeing, Mina reminded him of a lion hunt. And when the lion turned on him, the explorer realized that he was the prey rather than the hunter. So definitely he's realizing that it's going to be very hard to take her down. Because she's now a vampire, it's just going to be hard to take her down. Now the final 3 scenes, oh my god, they were amazing. Victor then goes back to his flat, looks nervously behind him, seeing no one, and then he goes inside. Vanessa is then praying again, very much like the first scene, and the candlesticks drift up into the air, clatter to the floor, and then literally this time, hundreds of spiders crawl off the crucifix, and just, oh my god, spiders are like the creepiest thing on the show. Who would have thought spiders, out of all things, were the creepiest thing? They really are creepy on this show. Victor then goes to his room, and here's the very end of the episode. We see Victor go to his room, and he takes a secret flight of stairways up to the attic where he has put all of his galvanic equipment. Along the equipment is a naked caviter strapped to a table with electricity running through its body. And this scene, I'm just like, oh my god, we're going to see Frankenstein, we're going to see Frankenstein, we're going to see Frankenstein. I just kept saying that over and over again because I knew it was going to happen. The backup generator waves, we see the backup generator ends up wavers, so Victor's trying to repair it, but a lightning bolt hits nearby, taking out the power, and before he can get the generator working, he lights a lamp, discovers that the caviter is gone, and I'm just like, yes, we're going to see Frankenstein. And then standing in a corner, there's the caviter. It turns around, approaches Victor, who looks in awe. The creature examines the stitching covering its dead body, and then notices that Victor's crying, wipes a tear from his cheek, touches it to his own. Victor asks if the creature can understand him. The creature nods, and then he says, my name is Victor Frankenstein. And that is how this episode ended. And I gotta say, it was a fantastic premiere. I loved everything about this premiere. Now, a couple of things I do want to say. Great acting in this episode. Some really great acting, I must say. The performances in this show, I think it's going to be definitely a really great show. As I said, I think that it definitely is going to be a very intense show. It's going to be probably one of the best shows on Showtime. This is my first show on Showtime I've seen, by the way, so I definitely want to see more shows on Showtime, but this one is fantastic. The performances are great. Timothy Dalton as Malcolm is fantastic. He really does do a great job. Eva Green is also great, you know, as Vanessa, she's fantastic. Josh Hartnett also as Ethan, he is great, I think he's fantastic. But actually my favorite, I think, is probably Harry Treadaway as Victor Frankenstein. He is so creepy, literally. Every scene with Victor is just so creepy in this episode. You can definitely tell he's a very, like, demented scientist, and he's kind of just crazy, so I'm interested in seeing where some things are going to go. Now that this monster has come, Victor's going to now have to hide it from Malcolm, and now he's going to have this business opportunity with Malcolm. I have a feeling it's not going to work out well with Malcolm in the end. Something's going to happen there. Obviously, people are going to be afraid of this creature, so we're going to see what happens there. Is Mina going to be a threat to Malcolm? We'll have to see what happens there, as far as that's going. What is the deal with the spiders? Why is Vanessa keep being haunted by these spiders? Like, we don't know what the spiders are all about. I want to know what the spiders are about. Also, is Victor going to take Malcolm's business opportunity? Is that going to work? And also, what are Vanessa and Malcolm hiding from Ethan? We don't really know. And is she going to seduce him to try to get him to work for them, or does she intentionally love him? I don't really know. But again, this was a fantastic premiere. I loved everything about this premiere. I thought it was probably one of the strongest, you know, season premieres I've seen in a while. Especially since series premieres I've seen in a while. Since Fargo, that was the last one I reviewed. But, you know, ever since Fargo, there's been some really great series premieres. And I think this one's going to be really great as well. I'm definitely really looking forward to it. My only complaint about the show is, why is there only 8 episodes? I guess they're just trying to test it out. But I'm sure the show will get renewed because it's already a fantastic show. I already feel like I know these characters, even though we've only seen 1 episode. And that's fantastic. When, you know, also, practical effects, I have to give applause to them for that, because not a lot of shows do practical effects, and when they do practical effects, it really is better, and this show proves that practical effects are better, so definitely looking forward to more from this show. I loved everything about this pilot. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. And are you going to watch this show? I'm sure you guys will. That's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for... I don't know what it's going to be for. I don't know what show I'm going to watch next, but it's either going to be for Turn or Mad Men. So I'll see you guys for that. Bye.